And how were the locations originally found? Because the whole pre-production process was very fast. So how did you find the areas to film in?
Well, we had to stitch an island together, and it's very difficult to identify an island in a movie because you can't see it all at once. So those aerial shots are very important. Mm-hmm. But we also had to stitch the architecture together. This stone village and the castle, which part of which was Georgian and part of which was sort of Gothic. Mm-hmm. And so it actually took 25 different locations to make all those things meet, without there being a council house built in 1920 just in between or something like that. And so we travelled virtually every other day, the whole convoy.
Certainly did.
To a whole new series of hotels. It was a nightmare down those roads which only have not 2 lanes, but 1 lane. It was a logistic triumph, really, for the production people that they got it all done on schedule.
Also, one of the astonishing things is that we hardly, as far as I can remember, we had some pretty bad weather, didn't we? But we didn't lose a day, did we?
No, we had very good weather considering the time of year, don't you think?
Okay, I suppose
because
so.
Even
there were a few storms.
Even though it was cold, it was usually sunny.
I don't recall going to more than one hotel myself, because I obviously wasn't involved in the scenes. I mean, I was staying, like we all were, at Newton Stewart. I don't think I stayed anywhere else.
When you went to Plockton? No, you went
in
Plockton.
I didn't.
No, you went in Plockton.
No, I didn't. And
no, that's because you were actually down in Galloway, and all the scenes.
Surely.
Well, it's the province.
Both.
It's the province of Galloway. Cucubrish is the
excuse
country.
me, I didn't know that.
Well,
oh,
there everything.
You see, foiled again.
Can we just say about the scene that we're watching? This is the interiors here are all shot in the Ellengowan Hotel, and the exterior that we saw very quickly is actually it's an estate agent in Gatehouse of Fleet. It's recorded that the Ellengowan Hotel was the place where the cast would hang out when shooting was finished, and I was there just a few weeks ago, and the people who were there drinking of a Monday morning were remembering the Wicker Man as if it happened yesterday. What are your memories of that place?
I didn't go there.
Edward?
Exactly as you said. Yes, we did hang out there. When we hung out anyway, we didn't do a lot of hanging out as far as I can remember, because we were working pretty early in the mornings and we finished quite late at night mostly, and so there wasn't a great deal. But the pub's hardly changed. It's full of photographs of the production, of course, and I was up there, as you know, some months ago, and people were pouring to that pub, shaking the hand and remembering the days, and it's all exactly rather like us. It's rather as though it happened yesterday. All of these locations were untouched. Just, it's timeless. They're timeless. They're still there. They still look the same. A lot of the people are still
And
there.
these wonderful Scottish actors, because most of the people in the front of that scene, not these. I mean, they are, of course, genuine musicians. Lindsay Kemp, I think he lives in Rome. He did years ago. But there, and these two, I mean, these are very distinguished Scottish actors.
Indeed, yes.
We cast them from the Glasgow Citizens Theatre, which most of them belong to.
I don't think Oak.
No, Oak,
professional
I don't
actor,
think
was he?
actually, no.
That's the big guy.
But
The one there with the beard.
two
He's the
guys,
one who carried me up the steps.
That's right.
I remember,
yes,
of the Wicker Man.
yes.
Now we're also seeing in this scene, the first appearances of Britt Ekland. Tell me about the casting of Ekland. Why did you cast her?
Jolly pretty, isn't she?
Extraordinarily pretty, yes.
Peter Snell really cast her because, as you know, producers are particularly involved with the star names, and she had started to make her name then, and we needed somebody with a name for the leading actress, or in effect she was, I suppose, the leading actress. And I met her, and I thought she was looked absolutely right for the part. And the only problem that there seemed to be was whether she would be able to achieve the Scottish accent. And in fact, she did. She I thought she did very well. Of course, the singing was dubbed because she never pretended that she could sing, and that we always knew we were going to do that. But it has been suggested that she was dubbed completely, and I don't think that's true at all. I think that's
She
her
had
voice.
her daughter with her, Victoria, didn't she?
She had Peter
another one on the
Peter
way.
Sellers' daughter. Yes.
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 Yeah.
Victoria was 12, I think. 12.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning Lindsay Kemp, who is one of our foremost mimes. He doesn't normally talk in his performances.
Still miming. Still
miming,
Still
yes,
working, still
yes.
But
dancing.
living in Rome still.
Yeah.
And
Creating companies all over the world.
he was not an obvious choice for the father of Brit, but I think that very fact works quite well in the film because it just seems so strange and sinister.
Well, it's a very
It adds-
bizarre-looking
yes,
relationship,
yes.
yes.
Can we just say, just to clear this up once and for all, because as you know, it's passed into legend that all of Brit Ekland is dubbed, and is dubbed by Annie Ross, the jazz singer. Eric Boyd Perkins, the editor of the film, does not remember her being dubbed at all. And as far as you remember, Robin,
Yeah.
the voice that we're hearing now is Brit's voice.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd heard the story that she'd had her voice dubbed with a Scottish accent.
Well, it's just because the song was done, Christopher, I think.
I was convinced that she had.
Well, she's certainly convinced that she's dubbed. That
Does it
it's
very,
not, that it's
she's
not her
done it
voice.
very well. The Landlord's Daughter. That's a great number. We've already seen that, of course,
Yes.
with all of them dancing away. Now, is the scene in here with me and Ash Buchanan
It's
and
coming up.
Willow McGregor?
After he gets up to his
Yes,
room.
I remember that very well, Hardy. We will come to that in a minute. What you did to me on that occasion.
Yes, this was. I do remember this this evening of filming.
Oh, this is so wonderful, because it's slow motion and also it's very erotic and you don't see too much, which is so vital in films these days. You see a bit, but there's tremendous amount of suggestion, and you really believe that this is happening.
These are students from the Bristol LVic.
Really? I must go down there sometime to attend some of the performances.
You do realise they're all 30 years older now.
Yes, of course they are. So am I, unfortunately.
That's a thought, isn't it? That's what always fascinates me. You know, there are these sort of 25-year-olds
Yes, that's right.
sporting themselves
And this lady is
everywhere.
drawing her old age pension.
And she's
now.
drawing her age pension. Yes.
I'm not sure that I even remember that shot. Oh, yeah, very good.
So, can you remember where that graveyard scene was shot, Robin?
It was shot some graveyard near Newton Stewart.
Now, the version of the film that we're watching is the longest existent version. It's the 99-minute cut that's sometimes referred to incorrectly as the 102-minute cut. It has all the sequences that were in your first director's cut. Are you happy with the version as it now stands?
I'd like to point out quickly, that's Paul Giovanni, the composer, on the right.
Oh, yeah, singing there.
To interrupt you.
I think, if I may suggest it, if I'm going to explain what happened to the cuts, it'll take so long that you may need to pause.
Well, this is a significant sequence that, of course, isn't
Yes,
in the
this
shorter
is very
version.
significant, yes.
This
Very
is one of,
significant, because this boy is about to lose his virginity. And I am the Lord of the Manor. It's the first time you see me, unlike the shorter version. It's the first time you see me, and I say, go up, Ash Buchanan, to Willow McGregor, to be initiated, so to speak, which he does very happily. And then Mr. Hardy, I'm not even referring to him as Robin, Mr. Hardy then sprang one on me, thank you, which you will shortly be coming to, in which I bend down and look at two snails having a very good time on a large rhubarb leaf. The light was going rapidly, and Robin said to me, here's this little poem by Walt Whitman. Do you think you could memorize this before it gets pitch dark? And say the lines. I thought, I don't believe this. However, being, of course, a person with a rather peculiar memory, I managed to get it out. I've forgotten what I said now, quite frankly,
Well,
but you will see it in a minute.
but how significant is it that, as we know, this is the long version of the film. There's
That's
a
Paul
short,
Giovanni again.
And this is a lovely song which is missing from the short version.
This is Gently Johnny.
This is Gently Johnny, which is Robert Burns' the lyric.
But I don't. Yes, because I don't remember seeing Paul singing very often.
I don't remember.
He sang well, and
Oh, he sang beautifully. In fact, he sings more than this one. I think he sang something else as well.
yes, he may have done it.
But when the film was shortened, you lost all this material. So the question is, how significant is it that this material be back now in
Well,
the film?
very, because you start to see the conspiracy of the people in the pub. In a minute, you're going to see what's on
And
the
the
ceiling.
conspiracy of the
Now,
director towards one of his unfortunate actors. Here you have the snails, hard at it. Here am I looking up at the window and saying, I think I will turn, or whatever, and live with animals. And it's Whitman. And to have Whitman sprung on you when it's getting dark is an experience, let's put it that way.
And while you were doing that, there was I praying in another room. You see.
Yes.
Exactly.
Magic of
There you
film.
are praying. Yes.
Wonderful. Yes. This is a tremendous scene. This is a tremendous scene.
There are some scenes that you do in movies which are incredibly difficult to do. And this, of course, was terribly difficult to do because Britt wasn't there.
No, this must be one of the worst for you. It was
And
terribly difficult.
to know where to put one's hands. You know, because as I put my hands, you knew that Britt was going to put her hands in the same place the other side of the other room. So where you put your hands, where you put the body, you know, exactly how, and I had to envisage all the time where she was and what she was going to be doing. And that's very difficult for a director to actually get that into the actor's mind.
Well, I was asked the other day, quite recently, what it was like. They were talking about, special effects and computer-generated stuff, and they said to me, what's it like when you're working and there's nobody behind the camera, nothing's coming from behind the camera because there's nothing there? And I, before I could stop myself, said, I've experienced that quite frequently with some of my colleagues. And there was a long, long silence.
Without wanting to just drag you to practicalities, but this is important for people who don't know the film as well as you guys obviously do. In the abridged version, there is only one night of Howie staying on the island, and therefore you lose that sequence with Ash Buchanan, you lose all the material that we've just seen, and you lose a significant part of the backstory and of the theology of the piece. And do you all agree that it is better that it is in there?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's
Yes, because we haven't
essential.
come to this scene of the temptation by Brit on the other side of the wall. We haven't come to that.
No. That's on the second night.
It's like you see, if you hack something as badly as this was hacked, it's totally dismissive of the movie, but also it says a tremendous amount for the audiences throughout the world who still managed to feel a love for this film, to be caught up with this film. And the whole idea of not having the background, especially the whole of the religious background, is it's awful. It's absolutely diabolical. Thank God it's all back. Thank God it's back.
It was butchered, and I still believe deliberately. I have no proof, only suspicions. But,
well, whether it was deliberate or not, what it was totally uncaring, wasn't it? I mean,
totally.
it was
And
totally,
after all,
totally
this film has
uncaring
become
to any piece of work.
one of the great cult movies of the cinema, and rightly, in my opinion.
Well, again,
This is one of the scenes which is also key in telling the audience, if they want to listen and watch, what this island is about, because the maypole has been crowned, which is obviously a sort of sexual representation. The pole has been crowned with the wreath, in the same way as might have happened the night before, with if he had actually been able to make love to, as she hoped he would, to Willow. And now he sees that the girls are in tune with this maypole dancing, and that their teacher is going to ask them what it represents. And their answer is